Welcome back to Old Moon Radio. It's been a moment, but we're back on air. My name is Chris Branco. I'm here with my good friend Ian Mills. Ian, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's almost spring. We're almost out of winter.
It's
Very
almost
excited.
spring, and we went golfing yesterday, and I feel the need to make an apology on air for my performance. It was quite atrocious, but it was a great time. So it was good to be golfing, talk a little bit of podcast while we were out there, but mostly just enjoying the weather. Ian, I have one thing to say right now, and that is kill la 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 la.
Yeah,
What'd you think about the album that we just listened to? And I need your help on the pronunciation. It's a name of a bird, right? Halcyon?
I would
Halcyon?
say Halcyon. I don't know. Pretty common album name for
Is it?
broadly British. Um, I know this is an Irish band. Um, uh, uh, Ellie Goulding, I think, has an album with the same name. There's a couple albums with this name. Obviously inspired by uh, kind of similar folk history to some extent, I think.
Yeah, well,
Um,
the band name is Kingfisher, and a halcyon, if
yeah.
I'm pronouncing that correctly, is a type of kingfisher bird known for their
Okay.
heavy bills and predatory behavior. So I thought that was interesting. So yeah, it goes along with their band name as a debut album. I like that they're keeping the theme together with Kingfisher Halcyon. Pretty neat. Let's talk a little bit about Kingfisher. They're an Irish indie folk group, as you alluded to, formed in Limerick in 2022, a very new band. The three members are Eddie Keogh, Owen McGrath, who they call Magoo, and then different spelling but same pronunciation from what I read, and that's Owen Fitzgibbon. I can't really pronounce Irish names, so I had to look these up. I hope I got them correct. I think I did for the most part, but let me know if not in the comments. The band got their big break when the song "Killa" reached #1 on the Irish singles folk chart on no Irish singles chart on May 2nd, 2025, so less than a year ago. It's a huge platinum hit in Ireland. That's obviously the lead single from this album. It's fantastic. The song is, but we'll get thoughts on the album in just a moment. Do you have anything to add about Kingfisher before we kind of dive into the album?
No, just really, really cool to get to dig into them a bit. You were pretty on this album when it came. I didn't realize this album came out last year because you
Mm.
sent it to sort of our group pretty close to when it came out then.
Yeah, the algorithm got to me. It worked. I heard Killa and I sent it to you all. It's actually crazy. I discovered them.
Actually, I'm gonna
Um,
look up when you sent that because it was pretty close to August 22nd, I would say.
yeah, I found them on my Spotify the day after they played in Washington, D.C., and I was distraught. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" It was literally the day after they were in D.C. Um, I would have seen them if it was like 2 days earlier. Um, so really bummed about that I didn't get to see them, but I'll definitely catch them when they come back around. Um, yeah, I think
I
I
can't
sent
find it.
that. Yeah, yeah, you can't find it.
I
I think
couldn't
I
find.
sent
I
it
can.
pretty close to when the album came out.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Uh,
would you see Kingfisher live if they came around? Would you come with me?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get your
So,
thoughts on the album. Yeah.
yeah, honestly, this was a little controversial because we talked about doing this album for a while. It's kind of been on the back burner when we needed something to do.
Hmm.
Um, I don't like the album as much.
I
Killa
figured.
is definitely a highlight and something that we talked about in our Spotify Wrapped. Like I thought this that song was going to be my top one because I listened to it like over and over and over and over again for several weeks. It ended up not being. But it it really shocked me because I listened to that and then I listened to the album kind of a little bit after,
Hmm.
and Killa just seems so tonally different than all the other songs on the album that I was a little let down. Not totally bad, but um, I don't. And I also lean more folk, and Killa is in many ways
Yeah,
a folk song. And this album kind of skews more to like contemporary folk more than
it
like
does.
maybe traditional folk. Um, two big two influences on this album, I think, for me, and we'll get into it when it comes up. But I'm curious if you had the same same thoughts. Um, but it isn't like I'm not like I was disappointed in that regard, but it's still a pretty good album. Runtime of like 52 minutes, which I harp on a lot. Like it really annoys me when an album's like a half hour because like I don't know. Like I feel like an album should be bigger. Definitely like an hour album coming out as like your debut, I think is pretty cool. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's I had also noticed that it's a solid length, 16 songs. And there's a deluxe version as well. So I'm like, how long is this deluxe version? Um, so I had a feeling that you would be kind of meh on it, just knowing your music taste. And we talked about the Mumford and Sons album, and it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. There's one song in particular that leans Mumford and Sons pretty heavily, I thought. Um, so I had a feeling that would be your take. I'm a little more high on it. I'll probably give my thoughts on the album as a whole when we're done this, going through kind of track by track here. But I thought it was a solid debut album for sure. Definitely more contemporary folk, and Killa definitely leans more into Irish pub traditional location based anthem type song. So definitely I see what you're saying that the album as a whole isn't very reflective of that necessarily, but I thought it was pretty good. Let's just get right into it. The first song is Man on the Moon. This was like indie rock sounding to me a little bit. It reminded me of the
Yeah.
band Young the Giant. Um,
Okay.
yeah, what'd you think?
Well, so you picked up Mumford and Sons, I think, is the clear one. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised we both got that. So the Man on the Moon reminded me of another English. I'm pretty sure they're English. Reminded me of the Killers.
Oh,
So I think we were both picking up on more like um, contemporary rock probably isn't the right genre, but like modern like pop rock.
right.
Um, uh, Kind of like the same area. So I think we were on the same track. But this was like the other band for me, which it makes a lot of sense of like where and how they grew up. The Killers and Mumford and Sons would probably be big influences, I imagine.
Yeah. It's
Is Young
definitely
the Giant
just
American?
I think so.
Okay, I was
Um,
just curious.
but it just has that type like tight like indie pop sound to it, which
Yeah.
for some reason brought me to Young the Giant, who's a band I like rarely think about. So I'm not sure why that came into my head, but it did. The next song is 21. It slows down a little bit from Man on the Moon, but it still has very like atmospheric, big sound to it. Um, just a little bit more mellow of a song. Um, my interpretation is it's a bit about the light leaving your eyes as you grow older, perhaps growing more jaded. The stars don't shine as bright as they used to, as they did when we were young, at the age of 21. So I liked it, but again, little different than what I expected going into the album.
Yeah, and this one I didn't really get on the Mumford and Sons train until the next song. But
Hmm.
this one I think part of the reason like I don't like some of these songs is like they do the Mumford and Sons, well not just Mumford and Sons, but like this is something we brought up on that album review of like doing the chorus. The chorus is like 75% of the song, and for
Hmm.
me like that, and it's not like just these two bands that do this, but it's something that kind of like I think diminishes a song a little bit because it just feels like not big enough. It doesn't feel very dynamic. But and it kind of leans towards kind of like more background music, I feel, because like the familiarity of repeating a chorus, I think works better in that regard than to be like something that you're gonna do like a deep dive into.
Yeah. Just a fun fact. I don't have any Kingfisher merch, but I am wearing a Guinness hat for today, so that's my merch for Kingfisher. Um, Next song is Gloria, and interesting you say this is what brought you to Mumford and Sons. I definitely can see that. But this is an awesome song. Killa is probably my favorite off the album, but this is probably my second favorite off the album. I love
I
this
know
song.
you've mentioned it before. I thought it would be
Yeah,
more played,
it's
because you
not
told
even
me
in the
that
top
like
10.
even before I listened to the album fully, I maybe it was I listened to the album fully. I was like, I don't know if I really like this much. You mentioned that you really
Mhm.
like this song, so I went in thinking like this would be like the number two behind Killa, but I was surprised to see it wasn't.
Yeah, not even in their top 10 on Spotify. But I think I love it. It's got a hook that's really catchy to me. Um, the singer Eddie Kyo said via Hot Press, Gloria is about giving in to the pressures around you and whether you can live with yourself for doing it. The song represents a yearning to break free. You can absolutely hear that. What's another chain around my neck? Those types of lyrics, like the yearning to break free, is very apparent. But what do you think about Gloria? Are you as high on this song as I am?
Um, Not as much, but like I think this was like a good example of probably why you like this album. Um,
Hmm.
it definitely felt like sonically bigger than the previous songs. And
Yes.
something
Yeah.
I find interesting about Kingfisher is that, and probably why I was sort of like thinking in one lane and ended up being another, um, is that Killa, the song, it's like pretty, we were talking about being a traditional folk, but it's also a traditional folk setup. It's kind of closer to a bluegrass setup, which is definitely my preference. Um, but what I realized when they played Kill Alive, they play with like drums and stuff, like a more
Hmm.
like rock band setup. This feels like more like that setup. It felt sonically bigger. It felt like more of a rock band. Like I said, more Mumford and Sons inspired. So
Right.
I can definitely see why this is like a good example of what you like about this album.
Yeah, not to harp on the Mumford and Sons fact, but that's three members. This is three members. They play with a bigger band. They play with a bigger band here. There's a lot more people involved in the album, in this album, than just three people. You can hear that. So very similar in that regard too. But again, I don't want to make that like our main thing that we just harp on because there's definitely differences and I don't want fans of either band to be like they're different, you know. But
Hmm.
the next one is I Cried, I Wept, kind of a continuation of the indie rock vibe. And at this point I was thinking, is this going to be the whole album? Like like you said, I was looking for that traditional folk sound a little bit. But I think the album does evolve and change a little bit as it goes. I think they just started out with this like really tight poppy anthemic indie like rock type sound because this song's fast. I cried, I wept, I lost my mind, and then the like guitar riff and like very
Hmm.
similar to Man on the Moon in 21 in my opinion. So at this point in the album I'm thinking, oh, this is what the album's going to sound like, and I think it does change up a little bit and we'll get into that.
Yeah. So this one was like also reminded me of the Killers.
Yeah.
Faster pace, like you said. I thought this wouldn't be one of my favorite songs outside of sort of like the big ones off the album. Um, I think like when you have like the more rock setup, which this song is, I like it like this more, I guess. I don't know. Like
Mhm.
I like the faster pace with it. I feel like it lends itself more to the instrumentation.
Yeah. The next song is Next to Me, and here we get back to a little bit of the indie folk sound that we're looking for. There's a prominent banjo, harmonica. It's more of a traditional love song, um, and it's really funny on Apple Music. On Apple Music, they list like the origins of each song, which is really cool. It makes this podcast easier when I can just read that. But Eddie said, Next to Me is about the girlfriend. I have a lovely girlfriend. Won me a lot of brownie points in the relationship, as you can imagine. Writing this song is what he's referring to. But the origin is the three of them went into the room and said anything happened over the weekend, and two of the band members got girlfriends on the same weekend, so they wrote this song, which is just kind of funny timing. They were like, "What? Anything new? Well, we have girlfriends. Well, let's write a love song about them." So I just thought that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't write this song that much.
you didn't. Yeah,
No.
that's interesting because I feel like it is a little more like Killa in a sense. Maybe not lyrically and tonally, but sound wise, it's not too different. I mean, it's a little more acoustic and stripped back, which is why I say that, but that's fair. We can go into the next one, which is Diamonds and Roses, which I actually like. There's a really cool deep timbre in Eddie's voice when he pronounces, I don't want to sing it, but there you are with those Jezebel eyes. Um, he says it's an ode to the death of celebrity, like gone are the days of the ivory towers. He says that characters like Prince or Michael Jackson, they couldn't exist today. And I thought that was an interesting take because I don't really necessarily agree with that. We have plenty of celebrities that we idolize that are larger than life. But maybe he's approaching it from a different angle that I'm not aware. But then he talked about Louis Capaldi. Do you know Louis Capaldi?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He talks about how he's such a refreshing take on celebrity because he's a lad who's very classically Scottish and just wants to drink pints and get stuck in, which you can see their similarities in culture. Um, I thought that was funny. I'm not sure again if I agree in the whole take of like the death of celebrity, and I don't really hear it in the song. It's very metaphorical, I suppose, but just a little bit of insight from the band on what the
Yeah.
song came from.
I mean, that's interesting because like the context of which I hear like the death of celebrity a lot is like there are no like universally not previous to like maybe 20th century pop culture, like there are no like universal celebrities anymore
Hmm.
where it's like
Okay.
this person that everyone knows, everyone is like, yeah, like that's and like just like how the internet has developed over the past several decades, there it's more likely to be like micro celebrities, and there can be like even bands like more like to like the point of this
Sure.
podcast and like listening to music. There could be bands like you've never heard of that you look at them up on Spotify and they have fucking 100 million, hundreds of millions of plays on their songs. Like who's listening to this? Like I've never heard this band before in my life. But you basically have like them being like true like celebrities, like maybe in popularity, but maybe not like as culturally dominant.
Okay.
Um, this seems to be more like this song seems to be more like celebrity as maybe like an example, like more like an ideal, and that like maybe more disillusioned
Mm.
to them as maybe like people to look up to. I don't know. You'd be correct to say like this is like the most popular song outside of Kill on the album.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's something I've also been like back and forth. We talk maybe I will talk more about books in the future. But this is something that like I've been reading a lot more contemporary lit this year, and this is something that like it was like a big jump for me. The line of like poisonous whispers and data collection, the Garden of Eden, Guantanamo Bay, hanging on holy days. There's like an issue, and it's like a characteristic of contemporary media that like it's you don't really get when you're like listening or reading or watching stuff from
Hmm.
decades before of the idea like the not anachronism but like anachronism um
Mm.
but more like it's really weird to read stuff that is like a contemporary reference that like you were around for,
Yeah.
especially when it's put together with stuff that is more just like traditional. So I think it's interesting. It's something that I'm still getting used to. Like the line of the Garden of Eden, Guantanamo Bay. It's like interesting. I don't know if I like it. And
It's kind
not
of
in regarding to
jarring,
this album. It is like more jarring than like a maybe 20th century reference that is just old to you, like fully.
right?
I had this. I was reading a book a couple months ago, that mentioned Zoom meetings and also getting a job for the health insurance, and like that
Mm.
might be like a fine reference, but like I was also like I don't this feels like weird to me to mention in a book. So like something
Yeah.
like when you're dealing with contemporary media is something that you have to like kind of contend with more, I think.
That's fascinating.
Of
Yeah.
which this song I think is a good example of.
Yeah. That's really cool. Good insight there. If you're interested in Ian's thesis on these, we are looking to expand the podcast a little more and not to give too much away, but maybe lean into some literary analysis and kind of build a more of a broad spectrum here of what we're discussing. So definitely let us know what you're interested in learning about, and we'll try and hit those up. Next song is Flowers Fire. This could have been off Rushmere by Mumford and Sons, I thought. Really sounded like that. Again, not to harp too much on that, but man, did that just fit that album perfectly.
Yeah, I kind of like I don't have much to say in the next couple of songs through Killa. Like
Really?
it
Yeah.
seemed pretty similar. Um
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we go into Caroline, which is, according to the band, a reference to Seamus Heaney's poem Midterm Break. He comes back from school, sees his brothers died, and talks about coming into the wake and seeing him. So the second verse of Caroline was just directly inspired by that. He says that it's probably the crux of the album as it pertains to spreading their wings creatively. I noticed this was a quote unquote rework of the song. They have another single called Caroline that was released previously. So there must be some slight differences. I listened to both. I didn't really pick up on what those differences are. I didn't listen that intently. I just kind of did it as I cleaned around the apartment. But so a song that apparently means a lot to the band, but it didn't, stand out a whole ton to me. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I saw the rework. I didn't really know what that meant.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's not something you see
yeah,
commonly
I
on.
gotta dig in, yeah, to the lyrics and stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the big song on the album, and that's Killa. Um, Really just a great song. Ian, I'll let you take this one, and then I'll add a little bit of context about the song from the band's perspective.
Yeah, so the song's so funny to me because like it's a legitimately great song. Like it is like
Hmm.
you know it's gonna be around for a while. This is how I got in a band. Chris sent this song to us, and I immediately liked it. It's the only song from Kingfisher I've seen like in the wild. Like I've seen like like friends and friends of friends that like I don't really talk music with posted on their stories and stuff. Like very obviously it's like the most popular.
Yeah.
Um, so Owen Fitz um is from Cork, and Killa is I guess the village he grew up in outside of Cork, where they were playing I forget what was it hurling? I think it was
Yeah.
hurling.
Yeah. Yeah, it
They're
was.
playing a county final, and this is a song sort of like maybe more like a supporter song for Killa in the for that event. And they intro it as more of like it's kind of like a joke. They say for the crack, but they'll say joke for Americanisms. Um, which I mean, maybe not a joke, but like more like lighthearted, because it feels like a lot more serious. I think than they intended it to be, kind of divorced from the origin of it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it really love this song. Like it's obviously more traditional folk in the frame of like American folk. Uh, like for a couple of reasons, I'll let you go, and then maybe I'll add
Sure.
more at the end.
Yeah, I was gonna add what you covered, that they played hurling and Killa for 20 years. It was their whole world. They threw it together in 15 to 20 minutes, threw it up on TikTok and WhatsApp. It spread around WhatsApp pretty quickly. But like you said, they said it was kind of half a joke. It wasn't until St. Patrick's Day that it really took legs, which is funny. But yeah, I mean, it is on playlist on Spotify with classic supporter songs and Irish pub songs. So this is going to be a song that stands the test of time, I think. And just really cool that they just kind of struck gold just messing around. But that's kind of like the essence of folk music is like writing about your home and what you care about. And I think that's why it turned out so great. So yeah, it was number one in Ireland for weeks. Um, Probably still super popular on the Irish charts. Just a really, really well done song.
Yeah, and I think it just lends to like there's like an efficiency in being a simpler song that people are gonna be
Yeah.
more likely to resonate with it, I think. And there's like a couple parts of this that I think lend to that. Um, even though it's like this is one of the shorter songs, I believe. It's like 2.5 minutes. I mean, none of
Yep.
these are like super long, but I think it is the shortest out of all of them. Um, and even then, like it feels like more put together in a way that some of the songs I feel like aren't, where um like three main verses, starting out with like the very concrete like locations like the woods of Glenbower, the river de Soar.
Yeah.
Like I think it immediately puts it into a context where people are going to be like more grounded in listening to it. I think not like they would know like where these things are, but like
Mm-hmm.
it. it gives like this is the song about a real place, and then that kind of like makes it feel like more corporeal, I think. Um, and then coming up with like the second verse, like 95 came promotion, high up on the wing. It just feels like people know, even if they don't know like literally like what the song's about in terms of just like sport and like a sport from a particular place. It feels like more real than some songs that I feel like in this album, and
Absolutely.
also just generally that like you never really get what the point is, and then you can never really connect with it in a way that you can with with a song like this.
Absolutely. Yeah, the specificity really keeps it grounded and relatable even if you're not from there. I definitely agree with that. The next song on the album is Ways to Change, Ways to Change. I wrote Way to Change, but it's Ways to Change. I have a hot take here on this one. The instruments don't sound like this, but the vocal intuitions, I don't know how to say it, like the way the vocals sound remind me of like an Ed Sheeran song. Like, I don't have to find a way to change. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
something about it just gave me like an Ed Sheeran type like melody.
Yeah, this seemed like the most tonally different song. Not like you said, and I'm glad I was trying to figure out the way to explain this. Like not on the instrumentation, but on the vocals. Like it
Yeah.
feels this feels like the most pop song.
Yeah,
The
maybe
vocals
that's
feel
why.
like very like rounded, like very produced. It reminds me of how, and I don't know if I want to kick the nest on this one. It reminds me of like Taylor Swift's last album and sort of
I
like seeing
was
the progression of like how her vocals sound over albums and albums, and it feels like more like compressed and then rounded
yeah.
for like how it's presented, and not a comment on like like anything else on the album. It just feels like a broader pop like vocal trend. Um,
I literally wrote, "Give me Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift." So I picked up on that as well. I didn't want to throw out the Taylor Swift, so I'm glad you did. Just because that seems like such a departure and bold take for an album like this. But yeah, everyone is different. Everyone is perfect. Tell me that you love me. Tell me like that. It gives me that pop sound. Kind of just like the beats of how the vocals go.
yeah, and
S-
I wasn't entirely sure going off the pop
mm,
real quick. Also like more like drum machine beats on this too, I believe.
mm.
I couldn't really tell if it was like actual drums or just like the input, but
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think we were on the same page there, funny enough, because I think it is a bit of a hot take. The next song is Shadow. This has like a booming intro. I like the pre-chorus to this song, the big O's and everything. This is definitely more of a Man on the Moon type larger sounding song again. Um, Interesting enough, they said that nobody wants to think they're a bad person, but we're all pretty bad eggs deep down if we get the chance. Coming to terms with that, making sure you know that you can be a terrible person is important. Shadow is about my personal experiences with that. So kind of about like the darkness within, uh, just thought that was interesting. But yeah, fine song. Nothing to write home about.
yeah, this is one that is like more listened to like in the top couple of songs.
Hmm.
I liked it a little bit more. It does feel kind of like a mix of Man on the Moon and like Gloria, where it's like
Yeah.
a little bit more of like the contemporary folk rock, a little bigger. Um, yeah, yeah, I'll go with that.
No, yeah, I got you. Next we have Blue Skies. It's a song about a friend who took her own life after college. They talked about how it was really hard to deal with, as friends of this person. To go through this experience, you think about the memories you had, what you associate with that person. You thought you were having a good time, but there were undercurrents there that they didn't pick up on. There's lines in the songs that very clearly reference this, like I missed the signs. So, a definitely personal song to them. Blue Skies is a memory of that. Yeah, I think like musically, it's not my favorite off the album, but um, lyrically, you can tell it means a lot to the band, and for that I respect it. But yeah, did you have any thoughts on this song?
I actually like this a bit more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, after like the middle kind of coming off, um, Shadow and the song I liked a bit. Uh, I really like the chorus on this song. Kind of talking about like how the lyrics and
Hmm.
what it like obviously means to the band. Um,
Hmm.
I think the faster pace with the faster banjo works a lot better than some of the other
Hmm.
songs that are a little slower. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, I this was one where I kind of had the album on in the background
Right.
uh for the first couple listens, and I was starting to like be into a little bit more and pulled up like which song it was. So yeah.
Next song, Shine in the Dark. I'm immediately drawn in by the stripped down production, just the simple guitar and harmonica. Um, when they met in England, well, when they were flown to England, I meant to say, they were all exhausted and they were like, listen, we're going to have a job in 6 months. We'll just give this a whack. It'll be a great story for our grandkids. Honestly, an inspiring mindset. Who really gives a shit? You're only here for a very short time. You might as well try the things you want to try, even if they go wrong, at least you'll know. I mean, I love that approach. I wish that I had more of that mindset in my life that I could just go for things and just take a risk. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I tend to play it safe personally. So, I like the song. I like the message behind that. It's a good song. I like how it's stripped back.
Yeah, I might have underestimated this song on my
Mhm.
listens. I feel like this it I didn't really pick up on the harmonica. I'm surprised I didn't note that because that's pretty unique to this song I feel on this album,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um I feel like this one I feel like I would have liked this song better if it was more like Killa, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is like uh I think one thing like I kind of like glossed over it is like they really like draw out the lines as more like ballady, like like
Mm.
try to like lengthen every line, like extend like syllables and stuff. But if it was more like kind of like spoken singy and more tight, I feel like I would have picked up on it a little better. And I think that's I mean that it's like ultimately like the same thing as saying like I would prefer it in like a more traditional folk style that we keep mentioning,
Yeah.
um but like stuff
I'm
on under the hood I think is pretty good.
I missed out on a little bit of that because I tapped my headphones and it pulled up Siri and it muted you. So I missed a little bit of that, but I hear what you're saying.
It's fine, we can leave it in.
The next song is Eyes Don't Lie. This was the first song they wrote back when some of them were living together. I like this song. It's definitely, is it the second most popular on the album? It is. Big chorus, your eyes don't lie. I can't sing these songs, but I like the song. Interesting that it's so deep in the album, but it kind of gives the album a nice hit towards the end before we start to strip down a little bit with Someday and School Days. So I liked Eyes Don't Lie. Um, Big
Is
chorus,
it
more of like a
is it
Gloria.
the I've been Oh, it is. That's interesting. So like
Yeah,
full disclosure, I don't know
yeah,
if it's um I'm not really using Spotify anymore. I'm just using YouTube Music.
hell
And
yeah.
this has like no place on YouTube Music. But it does on
Oh,
Spotify. It's
fascinating.
interesting. I wonder if they released it as a single or something. Um
That wouldn't be surprising.
because it for it has like the equivalent of the songs that have like 1 million plays on Spotify, I would say. Like some of like the lower ones.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Well,
interesting.
let's knock out these last two. We got Someday and School Days. Someday gives me Someday at Christmas type vibes, not just because they both have Someday in it, but it's about the bombs not dropping, the guns not shooting, world peace type vibe. And then when I looked up what the band said, they said this song's a little idealistic, like an Imagine by John Lennon situation. There you go. The sentiment's a bit utopian, but it's not meant as a literal thing. It's just a little bit of something hopeful because he says a lot of their songs are very fucking sad. Which I don't think their songs are, maybe they are. I mean, we talked about some heavy themes in just a few songs earlier, but I don't necessarily think of Kingfisher, maybe because their sound isn't necessarily super sad. Maybe their lyrics are maybe a little more. Regardless, Someday's a good song, but it definitely gives those vibes of Imagine by John Lennon. And then I'll just knock out the last song before handing it back to you. Not I don't know why I'm doing this two songs at
That's
once,
fine.
but School Days um, talks about how he thought he was going to peak in college, but essentially he ended up being this like forever partier type character, I think, is what I uh, took from that. And that's kind of what he said on Apple Music. Um, so two songs to kind of end the album that don't necessarily stand out a whole ton to me, um, but good enough album closers, I suppose. What do you have on these two?
Yeah, no, it's fitting that you did that because I just wrote the same thing for both of these. Um
Right.
and I feel like that's my take of the album. And like it sucks that this feels like derogatory, especially after reviewed Rushmere. I just for both of these songs I just wrote more Mumford and Sons core. Um which is like it's funny that like that's like a negative thing to say, or at least perceived as a negative thing. I don't know if it's like
Right.
truly negative. Um but yeah, like it feels like more of the contemporary folk that like a
Hmm.
lot of this album was, and maybe makes it hard to engage with like the topics of the lyrics and like the other parts of the song, I feel sometimes.
Yeah. Well, since we're on it, Mumford and Sons did release their new album, Prize Fighter, which we should probably cover since we covered Rushmere. I do like a few songs from it. You probably saw my Instagram story yesterday. I had one of them. So we can definitely cover that. But I think we're going to take a moment, Ian, to plan out how we want to proceed forward in doing this podcast, because I think we have a few ideas up our sleeve that could be really interesting rather than just reviewing kind of one-off albums at a time. So excited to get into that. My final takes on this album, it feels expansive but intimate. The polished production is good. It's not overdone, in my opinion. Everything breathes. There's some Celtic undercurrents that I like. I wish there was a little bit more of it. But overall, there's a lot of big hooks that land, in my opinion. I think it's a solid album, a good debut effort. Um, I would like to see them expand from here. I think they're a good band and definitely worth sticking with. Not my favorite album, but I liked it. I'd give it like a B, a solid B.
You know, like often we talk about like the sophomore slump of artists whose album comes out and they kind of have to have a sort of different take. But oftentimes I feel like the first album can kind of just be the accumulation of what they have so far. And I feel like with a having sort of established a success that they know they can get and they know they have a career in this industry, it'll lead them into having the ability to make some pretty interesting albums going forward. So I'm excited to see what they have coming out in the future.
It's a good perspective. I like that. Kind of giving this them the foundation now. They can kind of experiment a little bit and create something new for their next album. I like that. Thanks for joining us today on Old Moon Radio. We appreciate it. Hope that you like this album as well. Until next time, kill la 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 la. Alrighty, we'll catch you all next time. Take care.